Hello and welcome to another episode of Half and Half Podcast. Today I have with me an amazing mother, an educator of 20 plus years, who also happens to be one of my closest friends, Sabad Gulam. Sabad, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you, Farkhanda.
Sabu, as I know you personally for so many years, but our audience would like to know a little bit about you. Can you say briefly a little bit about your childhood and your adulthood?
Sure. So I actually was born in India, but my parents moved here when I was 3 years old, so I consider myself an American. They were first generation immigrants, so it was kind of an adjustment for my sister and I. We grew up in Chicago, but then we moved to Houston for high school. I went to Texas A&M, got married, moved to Dallas, and the rest, as they say, is history. I've been in Dallas ever since.
All right, wonderful. So I know Sabu, I know Sabahat, and of who I call Sabu. She is one of my closest friends. She has been with me in my thick and thins, and that's why we will talk about our friendship, struggles, obstacles, and how we came out stronger in our challenges. So, Sabu, being a mother and a teacher, and you have a special need child,
Mhm.
how have been that journey been for you?
It's been a journey full of ups and downs. People with special needs kids know that it's different than just raising, a child. Because I have 2 other neurotypical children, and while they have their own challenges, special needs kids have, restrictions in the people that can take care of them, the activities that they can do, um, daycares, etcetera. So it's been, like I said, kind of an up and down journey. I do have a lot of family support to help me, and I think that's been one of the game changers in being able to follow my passion education and, be there for my son.
Right. And I know just following your passion and being a professional and also being a mother and a wife and born in a Southeast Asian family, there are a lot of expectations from from your family, from your in-laws and everybody else. So it is a challenge and then, to kind of navigate it positively and then also be there for your child is quite a challenge. So, and you have done it for 20 plus years, you said. So going back a little bit to your, like, how was your kind of childhood or adulthood, like when you were in Texas A&M, have you ever thought that, you will be a teacher, or when you were kind of like you already decided that career from long time
So actually I had that's a good question. I had not decided to be a teacher. I went into Texas A&M undeclared. So it was like a general, majorless, I don't know how to describe it. Like it's called undeclared. So I didn't have a major and I got my freshman year to kind of take some classes and figure it out. And after going to my counselor and taking some classes, I landed on applied math. I couldn't tell you what I wanted to do with it, but I was like, I love math, so let's roll with this and then see if that's, where I want to go. And I just kept going. And at some point during my I think junior year, I took a class as an elective in education, and I ended up really liking it. And so, but even after that, I wasn't decided on being a teacher. I graduated with the applied math, and by the time I had graduated, I'd gotten married and I'd gotten pregnant. So I was on my way to having a child, and I thought back to that class and how much I had enjoyed it. And one of the things that went through my head, and I don't, this may be true for some educators, may not be true for some, but it was the 3 months off because I was about to become a mom. And so, I had my son, I took a year off, and then after a year, I began my journey into alternative certification because I was not an education major. Um, and at that time, I had a friend whose in-laws helped out watching him, and I went back to doing that certification, loved it, did my 1 year probationary in Dallas ISD, which was challenging, but if that didn't drive me away from education, then I knew nothing would. So,
I know. I mean, myself being an educator too, I think you need that immense passion to go every day, every morning to the
yep,
classroom
yep,
and just come out, smiling like
yep,
I have made a difference in, even if you make a difference in one child's
yep,
life.
mhm,
And that is just so rewarding and satisfying that you forget about all the uh, challenges that you face throughout the day, and you go back again and again, keep going back. So I think it is, I mean, especially in our culture, I don't know about how it has been with your family, but it being a Desi or a Southeast Asian, raised in South Asian culture, teachers are not looked up to as much as
Professionals. Yep.
doctors or engineers or lawyers. And
Yep.
I think it breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And as much as our parents love us and want us to be successful, but I think, it's going away now. I mean, people know what goes on in a classroom and how much an educator means to the child's life, or how much we've put so many hours, and not only teaching. I think so much paperwork and so much other things goes in there, but I think we are not appreciated enough. Do
Yeah.
you feel that way as well?
No, I agree. And unfortunately, in a lot of South Asian households, teaching is not considered quote unquote professional. So, it's like
And it's very
I've
heartbreaking,
I've heard those
truly.
comments that,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, they're a teacher, they're not a professional, so it's okay." And like you said, I don't think a lot of people know what goes on behind the scenes and how professional you actually do have to be. And I'm not familiar with the education system in some of those South Asian countries like India or Pakistan or Bangladesh or whatever. But here, I know that, like you said, there's paperwork, there's trainings, there's, recommendations that you have to fill out for kids.
Oh,
You get observed. Like there's a lot of
oh yeah.
professionalism behind, like you have to have team meetings. There's a lot of professionalism behind this job that people don't realize. And ironically enough, once people do get into the profession, then they start to realize they're like, "Oh, it's really not as easy as I thought it would be."
Right.
Like there's
And so many people leave the profession. I mean, they
yes, they
run
do.
away because it's not an easy job. And when people don't realize that, unless and until you are in that profession, I think it's hard to realize that what are the things going on in that classroom. Like you are teaching, you're preparing for the next class or for the next day. I mean, at the same time you're writing IEPs. You are also doing after school stuff and PLCs, and then there are so many other school activities that teachers have to be involved. And but from outside it looks like, oh, it's like an 8 to 3 job. It's not really 8 to 3. You go in at 7:30 and you come out like almost 5. That's what it happens to me, and I'm sure it used to happen to you as well. And then you bring corrections, you have grading, and you
You have
have like
grading, yeah.
all those things to, like, work on. So yeah, they are underpaid.
Yeah.
I would definitely say that,
Yeah.
out loud. In public education and in private education, they're very underpaid.
Yeah.
But isn't it rewarding? I would say yes. I mean, I cannot imagine myself being anywhere else right now at this point of my life and going through a grief, like, after losing my husband. I think even though I have a computer science degree, but I would not want to sit on my desk and spend 8 hours not interacting with anybody else. I think that would kill me. I think being with children, being interactive, being hands on, I think it helps me in so many ways.
Yeah.
It just uplifts my spirit. It kind of like makes me happy, it lightens my heart. And that is very important. At the end of the day, being happy and healthy, that are the only
Yeah.
two most important things. And I'm going to say it again and again because when my husband passed away, that he was barely 45, and he passed away. I mean, he had a whole life ahead of him, but he didn't survive. So it's just, you don't know what tomorrow holds for you.
Yeah.
You just have to live in the moment, and you have to be happy. As long as you're happy, healthy, and you're with your family, I think those are the most important things. Because I have seen way too many people up in the ladder
Yeah.
who are like making tons of money, but
Yeah.
they don't have anybody to share with.
Yeah.
And what's the point
Yeah.
of being there? So, coming back to your teaching career, and I know recently that this year, you plan not to take a break.
Yeah.
And I would say to take a break because teachers, once a teacher, always a teacher.
Yeah.
So, you might go back or you might do something else. But what like made you take that decision?
So I actually told my principal that I'm probably one of the few people that's quitting despite loving the profession. Usually teachers leave because, they're either dissatisfied with the income or the parents or the level of work or just n number of factors, and we have a mass exodus of teachers leaving the profession because of that. I loved it, I would have stayed, but unfortunately my son, like you said, has special needs, and there's not a lot of options for them. There's not a lot of people that can take care of them. There's not a lot of people that can drive them, and so I needed um it basically came down to schedule. Like, I needed a certain thing in my schedule. They were not able to accommodate that. And I realized that if I continued, there would be a lot of things that I wouldn't be able to do for him. And so, and one thing again that people don't realize with the teaching profession is that it's really unforgiving time wise. Like, when you're working from 7:30 to whatever 4:35, you're working. Like, you can't leave the kids
Right.
and go anywhere. So
Hmm.
whether it's appointments or going to your own kids' schools or, taking them to sports activities, like you're very restricted by time.
Right. No, I totally agree because, and I'm sure you made the right choice because when it comes to prioritizing, I mean, you always put family ahead of anything else, right? After God, it's family and then your career. So being a teacher of 20 years or 20 plus years and loving the profession and leaving the profession is not easy. It's very
It
hard.
wasn't.
It's a very hard decision. And
Yeah.
then you still went ahead and made the decision. And I'm sure, God will reward you in many folds. And you did it for your child.
Yeah.
And, a mother's love is I mean, it's like, it's unconditional.
Yeah.
And that makes you do so many things. And and with that I'm going to say that for me, on also my children's happiness, like I said it in many other podcasts, that after my husband passed away, I think we three of us kind to try, like, we try to make each other happy, and even though we are sad inside, but we don't show it.
Yeah.
And as a mother, I want to always to be there for them, make them happy. So even if I'm feeling down or sad or heavy hearted, so I choose not to. I choose to kind of like go out with them. So that's kind of like prioritizing their happiness over my sadness, or over my grief,
Yeah.
I would say. And same thing goes for you. You chose your child over your profession, and I think that's the right thing to do, because as you mentioned, that in school you cannot leave, or there is no 1.5 hour lunch break,
Yeah, there's not.
and you really can't. You just have to be there all the time.
Yeah.
And I would say this is a really funny thing to say, but I have a dentist appointment coming up, and it cannot be after 3. It has to be by 3 p.m. because the dentist's office last appointment is 3:15, and my school ends at 4:30,
Yep.
and my dismissal happens
Yep.
at 3:30. So what do I do? So I'm taking a day off
Just to go to the
for just to
dentist.
go to the
Yep.
dentist appointment. And if I mention that to a person who is not in education, who's not a teacher, they will laugh their head off. Like,
Yeah.
what?
It's hard to
Just for
understand.
an hour or 2 hour dentist appointment, you are taking a whole day off? Yes, I am. Because I just couldn't work it around,
Yeah.
because it's just not possible. I cannot go and come back, or I cannot leave my kids unattended. So, it's better to take a day off and do that. So teachers have, and yes, they do have summers off, as you know,
Yes.
but they are working in that like whole summer, just kind of like planning for their next academic year, or just being a teacher, like
Yeah.
it's not really off.
Well, and I think a lot of people misunderstand teacher salaries too. I don't think they realize that teachers are only paid for 10 months. It's just spread out over 12 months.
Right, right,
So everyone that comes back and says, well, you're paid for 2 months of not working. Well, no, we're really not. You're paid for 10 months and they just spread it out over the 12 months.
right, right. And so suppose, like, when you are working and you have like your son who is amazing, but he has special needs, and certain things you cannot rationalize with him,
Yeah.
and so you have your in-law support from the very beginning. So I would ask, like, as in South Asian culture, it is kind of common,
Mhm.
especially back home. People do live in joint families a lot. Over here in that United States, we don't see it's that common, but we still
It's
see
becoming common.
it's becoming common, but it's like not as common as back home. But, people have mixed reviews about this, or what is your thought in that?
So I guess if someone has not experienced, because I know a lot of younger women are going into, marriage and they're prefacing with, "We don't ever wanna live with families." And my only suggestion to you would be to keep an open mind, because I know it can turn negative, and it has for a lot of people, and I'm not saying, everyone has to, but there are pros and cons, and one of the pros for us has been, like, I have been able to have that long-term career because my in-laws have been there to help with my son, take care of him, be there at home when I can't. And not just my work schedule, like if I have to take, any of the other kids to other activities, etc., like they are at home and they're able to watch him. And that gives me that window of, because I know there's a lot of people here, special needs or no, it's still hard, juggling things alone with kids, right? Like as a working mom,
Oh
you're
yeah.
having to worry about how's my daughter going to get to her
Hmm.
extracurricular activities, or, if she's sick
Absolutely.
at home, who's going to take care of her?
Absolutely.
So for some of those things that support, because it's they say it takes a village.
Of course.
That's where that village comes from. So it definitely can have its cons, and depending on the people that you're living with, right? And I'm not saying it's for everyone, 'cause it's a two-way street. Like, I can be the nicest person in the world, and if the people that are with me aren't cooperating, then it's just not gonna work. But if both people, realize that they are different people and that there's gonna be compromises to be had, it could be a really great situation.
Right. And when you said that, you can be the nicest people, but if people don't cooperate with you, but I would like to say that people who are not getting along with Sabu, they have problems. I mean, anybody in this world, that's what she's the nicest person on earth. She doesn't get, anybody's
No,
business.
this is just for not being, like, my best friend here. No.
Yeah, no, she is. I mean, I'm going to say that I have been like my grief hits in waves, and I have been like sometimes so short. Like they have been my best friends. They have been asking about me that are you feeling okay? And some days are harder than other. And I am like, yes, or I'm like answering them so briefly, but they never judge me, and she never judges me. And that's, I mean, I'm going to say that that's what best friends are for. I mean, who are your true friends who will never judge you, regardless of how you're feeling, because we go through so many emotional channel challenges. And, I mean, you being a mom of a special need child, you face that challenge every day. Same here, like nobody's challenge or struggle is, we cannot downplay any challenge or struggle. It's different.
Yeah.
It's not the same. Like I have a loss, and I do that, it time does not heal things. It just gets, you just manage it
Yeah,
better.
yeah,
It is there. It's like if you lose somebody that you love so much, I think the hole in your heart is there forever. It just, you learn to manage it better. And at that time, you know who are your true friends and who are not. And I have figured out in past 3.5 years, almost 4 years, it's going to be 4 years this October 10th,
wow.
2025. So I lost him on October 10th, 2021. It has been 4 years but for me, as you know, it doesn't feel like 4 years. It feels like it's just that day I
Yeah,
lost him.
yeah.
And it's so raw and fresh still in my mind. And I think it's going to stay like that. But at the same time, I felt like, you know, as you were mentioning, that it takes a village for you to,
Mhm.
like, to survive, to, raise your family. And at that time, I think if I did not have friends like you, if I did not have family, didn't have the community who supported me, I think it would have been so hard for me to move on. And with my children who are like, my son was just 18, my daughter was 11, as you know,
Yeah,
it was the hardest thing. That day I felt like how I'm going to even live for next few hours. But then, Allah helped me. I did live, I am living, but then you need those people in your life. And so yeah, I had to expand this, because when she said that you have to be cooperative, she's the most cooperative person on earth, and who is non-judgmental, who will never judge you. And I have a couple of more friends like that who are truly amazing and will never judge. And I have snapped so many times at them. I'm like, I'm not feeling well. I'm just, drown in my grief. But I think they
you're
never ever judged me. And thank you so much for
you're
that.
totally allowed to. Like, the strength that you've shown over these past, and you're saying you can't believe it's been 4 years. I can't believe it's been 4 years. Like, when you said that, I was like, "Really? Has it?"
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
it just
crazy.
it just, time flies, but as I said, it does not heal
Yeah.
your wound. It just, you just manage it better.
Well,
You
and you're
just
managing it wonderfully because you're carrying on his legacy with SMF. You have a great career, you're taking care of your kids and not just taking care of them, but they're thriving.
oh,
Like,
they are.
mashallah, your son just got into law school. I mean, those are not small things.
Well,
And you have a podcast. Like,
well, that's the benefit of having a best friend in your podcast. They know so much about you, so they can also tell a lot about me when they are here. But going back to you, today the focus is not me, it's you. So, but when I say that you have a special need child, and so how is, like, I know it's challenging, and I have seen closely in my family and in school, being a special needs certified teacher, I have worked very closely with special need children, and I think the thing that I'm going to talk about is, like, I think people think it as a stigma or a taboo or a label,
yeah,
but they should not, because they are not, they are amazing kids. They are amazingly intelligent, smart kids. They're so sensitive and loving and caring. They're just different.
yeah,
They're just different. And the acceptance rate is not as much as it should be. I think they should be accepted in the society. And then, they're just different. Like, just how we individuals are so different. Like, when siblings are so different, I mean, how not human beings can be different, right? Like, as I mentioned, like me and my sibling, my sister, we are poles apart, but still we are best in our own ways.
yeah.
And but you don't have to be the same, but it can be different, but it can be still amazing. And how did you feel, like, in day to day, how did you feel the day to day challenges, or kind of like when you are in a social gathering, how did you navigate that?
So it's rough to navigate a social gathering. Like, if my husband does not go, I don't go. Like, we don't take him or I don't go. There was a time when he was younger where we would trade off going. And it was mostly him because it was easier for me to manage him at home. So we would just, he would go to a lot of the places, especially the larger gatherings. And I would just stay home. And then my in-laws moved in with us, which was a blessing. And so we were able to leave him with them and, go to whatever social gatherings we could. And as he grew older, we started taking him to, some places with friends that we trusted, ones that we knew, wouldn't be upset if he did
Or
something
judge?
or judge if
Yes.
he did something. And so places that we were comfortable taking him, we would take him. And if not, like I said, I've got my in-laws or now, my other son is 17, almost going on 18, and
Well.
he's able to handle him at home. So if it's something like that, we're able to leave him with him as well. And so that's where the whole village things comes in from. Because if I didn't have that village, I think it would have been a lot more isolating.
Hmm.
Because there are people that bring their special needs kids. Unfortunately, my son was just a lot more difficult to take to larger social gatherings. He was a flight risk. He'd gotten out a couple of times when he was younger, and so after that, we were just had to be like super diligent. And so, like I said, because of this village, because my in-laws were here, or my parents would come when needed, because we were able to leave him, we were able to have a social life.
Right. And that way, where when your in-laws moved in with you guys, it was a blessing for
It
you
was a
all.
blessing for us, yeah.
And so there were more pros than cons,
Mhm.
because you needed them,
Yeah.
and your son needed them as
Mhm.
well. So yeah, and I feel like it's not as much talked about as it needs to be, because even earlier on, like when they need to be evaluated and diagnosed at 3 years or 4 years old, parents kind of like just push it, like, and say that, okay, they're because she's just a pre-K
Yeah.
kid or a kindergarten kid, this is a normal kindergarten. But when was that time that you actually noticed or got saw the red flags, and you thought that you need to evaluate him, get him evaluated?
So it's probably around 2.5-ish. He wasn't talking. His younger brother had just been born and he showed no interest in him. And we started to notice things, aside from just the conversation that, socially we were like, his awareness is just a little bit less. He's not playing with other kids. He doesn't even notice that there's a baby at home. So maybe there's something wrong. And that's when we called ECI,
Mm.
and they had come in, and ECI, and I don't know how it is now. This is, like 18
Right.
years ago, 17 years ago. They came in and they didn't diagnose autism until 3. So since he was not 3 yet, they just kept saying, "Oh, it's, developmental and they do
Right.
activities or whatever." But the word autism came up once he was discharged from ECI at 3, and they recommended the early childhood program at in Plano ISD. And they were like, "Well," and again, they don't diagnose. They were just like, "Well, maybe it could be autism." And so that's when it was even put on our radar, because it's so much more common now, I feel like, and maybe it was just me not knowing anyone with, a person with autism in their lives, or maybe I'd just not seen enough, but it wasn't on my radar, and that wasn't what I was thinking with my son. I was just like, "I wonder why he's not talking. I wonder why he's not talking." It wasn't until the ECI people mentioned it at 3, and I was like, "Oh." We started researching, and I will tell you, we were in denial as well because
Mm.
he's 3. We were like, his pediatrician was like,
Right.
Einstein didn't talk until he was 4. And so we were like, okay, maybe it'll happen,
Right.
But at some point during that ECI journey, we were like, no, I think it's time we accepted that he probably does have autism. And that's when we started like bringing in therapists and speech therapy and stuff like that, and trying our best to, navigate this.
Right. I think accepting is the hardest,
It
like,
was.
and once you accept it,
It was.
it it is actually it works in favor of your child
It does.
and also in favor of you because your son or your daughter or your child is getting treated
Yeah.
and for his betterment,
Yeah.
and then as a parent you are also kind of able to help him out in a professional way, in a professional manner. I think the further, the more you delay, it's just like it's the worse it's going to be,
Yeah.
and people don't realize, and I really want to bring that awareness or to say it out loud, that
Yeah.
some parents need to accept it that they're different.
Yeah.
It's nothing wrong, they're just born different.
Yeah.
And they need to be accepted just as any other child in the world.
Well, it's such a huge spectrum. Like, I've had kids in my higher level math classes with
Mm.
autism,
Mm.
and they are able to do this, and they're able to have a conversation, and they just have, their whatever their issues were. But like I said, it's a huge spectrum. Like, my son is in a self-contained classroom. He's at, like a third grade level, maybe reading wise. He's not going to work, he's not gonna go to college, but there are kids with autism that do, go to college, that get jobs, that get
Very high
married,
functional.
high function. So it's an entire spectrum. And I do want to tell parents out there that are on the fence about getting their kids, help or diagnosed or whatever, that if they get to school and they're doing fine, it's always something that can be pulled back. No one's gonna label your child for life if it's not needed. But the earlier that they get help, and the earlier that they put their kids' names on, like the lists out there, the
Right.
medical lists and all
Hmm.
of that. Because in Texas, it takes, in excess of 15, 20 years for your name to even come up on that list. So the later you put them on there, the later it's going to come up. If you don't need it when when their name comes up in 12, 15, whatever years, if you don't need services and they're thriving and they're great, you can just pass on the services.
Right.
But if you stay in denial and, don't put them on that list, and we made this mistake, and I'll be very transparent about this. We didn't put him on the list until he was like 11 or 12 maybe, and that was like 6 or 7 years after we should have. And that put him behind 6 or 7 years. So we're still going to be waiting several years for his name to come up on these lists.
Wow. So many things that you can, like as I said, that you being or going through that, unless and until that person goes through that challenge of any kind of challenge in life or life-changing event or anything, it's hard for to put yourself in that shoe
Mhm.
or think from that perspective because you really don't have the skill to know. And then, I have worked closely with kids and I've seen even the kids with ADHD, the parents would just not admit it or don't want them to get them evaluated. But we have seen wonders happening with medication. And when they're without medication, it's just like a totally different child.
Yep. Yep.
I had few kids when I was teaching second and third grade,
Mhm.
and I was teaching ESL, so I used to pull kids from all grade levels from kinder till sixth grade. And I had a second grader who was immensely smart and kind, but he was just not able to do anything because he couldn't sit at one place. And he was just so hyperactive because of his ADHD. And for the longest time, he was not evaluated because his parents were in denial.
Yeah.
And but at the end, we worked really hard and we convinced the parents that it's going to benefit your child. You will see the difference. And once he started medication, I mean, it was, I mean, day and night difference. I
Sure.
mean, he was doing so well. He was able to be so calm in class and focus. That's the main thing, right, for ADHD. So I think I would say it out loud to all parents who are in denial or who feel that there is a need for evaluation or see the red flag and then still kind of like not admitting to themselves it is okay to get them evaluated. It's the faster you get the help,
Mhm.
the better it is for the child and for yourself. Because I think it's in everything I have seen, and I have seen people, I have interacted with people who lost their husbands at young age and became widows like me. But they were equally, sad, or their grief kind of took over. For me, I just accepted it and tried to channel it in a positive way. It's not that I am missing my husband less than
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
No way. I miss him every single second and moment. I wake with that heavy heart every morning, feeling that he's not there around, but it's just I am pushing it through because I have that positivity and will of navigating that in a positive way. How can I make my life better? How can I improve in this circumstance? How can I make the most out of it? Like, for example, carrying on his legacy. That's kind of so therapeutic for me. Like, it just gives me immense joy and happiness that, I'm keeping him alive through that carry through care. So I think everything, like, from navigating a grief to like handling a special need child or any kind of challenge, struggle in your life, it's just you have to, the acceptance is the hardest part.
Yeah.
I think when you accept it, it's just becomes so much easier. And, being around, as you mentioned, that when you go in a social gathering, taking him out in a gathering where you know that he will not be judged or they will not judge you, you are so comfortable and you are like there, you don't have to worry about him being judged or you feeling hurt.
Yeah.
So being with those kind of people, and eventually, over the years, who are the people who will have your back all your life and who are not. And I have said it before and I will say it again, that those who are feeling that you know people are not there in your hardest time or difficult time, they're not your true friends. I mean, don't even think for a minute to keep them on your list. You just can, because they're not worth your time. You just know it so fast that it's just when they're there for when you are happy and your happy times, I think everybody can be a part of it. But who are there for you when you are facing those challenges, life's challenges, which are the hardest things, and then people who are still there, helping you to hang on there. So I think they are your truest and greatest friends. And Sabu, for you, like now, as you are not working this year, it has been a couple of months, and you being with him, do you feel that satisfaction that you are able to give that time that you weren't able to spend like last maybe 20, I mean, spend in a way that now you are doing it? Do you feel how is the transition going?
So that's a tricky question. So even while I was working, I still somehow my schedule always worked out to where, I was able to take him to speech or I was able to take him to therapy. And so that part like was still there while he was going to school. I think the only difference is now, like, me, being able to put him on the bus in the morning, not worrying about if he's gonna give my mother-in-law a hard time, because he would, like, some days they're great, and some
Right.
days it's like, he's had a rough night, he doesn't understand that he has to get up at a certain time or that the bus will be there at a certain time, and so just being around for that kind of stuff and not having to worry about what's happening at home? Did he get on the bus? Or, last year, I think once or twice I got a call from school and they said, especially during exams week when the schedule is different, they were like, he doesn't want to get on the bus because we didn't go to basketball today because we had final exams. And I was like, okay. And so luckily I had the same schedule. My exams were over, so I dropped everything and I ran and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna try to pick him up. Um, but things like that where now I don't have to worry about it. Like if someone calls from school and says he's not doing X, Y, and Z, I'm available to go pick him up or, for therapies or any kind of appointments, like I'm there. So that part's been positive.
Right. So you have that peace of mind that you're there for him.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful because I feel like when you were at school and you are having that kind of, you know, constant worrying that what's happening back there, it's like, and also when you are, dealing with somebody with special need, it's the constant battle, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the challenge. It's not, it never goes away
You
from.
never know what's going to happen from day to day.
Exactly, exactly. It's like it's a challenge. Like, I mean, for me, it's like when I had my husband, I was, when I'm at work or I'm somewhere, I knew that if the school calls me for whatever reason, things happen, and then, or anything, that he's there,
Yeah.
one of us. But now I have to be like, even though my parents are wonderful and they're there, but then, they're getting old and they have their own things. So I cannot always tell them to do things that, they're 70 and 70 plus. I mean, they have their, for at their age, whatever they're doing, I'm immensely grateful to them. But again, it's different from having telling it to your partner or to your husband or the father of your child.
Yeah.
So for me also, whenever I get a call or something like that, I'm always kind of teaching and doing things, but I'm like, okay, I have, my mind is like, okay, if I have to run or I have to, like, it's kind of like doing, juggling between work and other things and managing that. So that comes as a challenge. It's not the same as yours, but it's different. But I'm just trying to
Yeah.
say that challenges can be, it daunting. It's just
Yeah.
like you have to navigate as and when it comes. You have to play it by there. But that's, so I think now you taking the decision, it's the
Yeah.
right decision for you to take,
Yeah. And
you
for
know.
a special needs child, like if, my other son got sick, I could even call in a friend or a relative or someone to pick him up. I c- my son just can't ride with anyone.
Right,
Like there's a very limited number of people that can actually pick him up safely and bring him home. So that those restrictions, and unfortunately, my husband works in this area, so by the time he navigates traffic and gets over there, it'll be in excess of 30 minutes. So
right,
that geography also plays a role in,
right,
you
right.
know,
And so for, I know it is very challenging at home also sometimes, like, when things are rough, you know, and I have heard different things. So I have heard from friends who have special need kids, and they said that, the bond between with your spouse becomes stronger because you're like kind of like handling or the child or facing the challenge together. So you do it, face it together, and it becomes much more stronger. And at times it is also gets a little rough because when the child is not behaving or kind of like, having a rough day, then you guys also go through that. And it is a little personal question, and I have other friends who face that situation as well. You are okay to not to answer, but how it goes for you, like, do you feel that you and your husband share a stronger bond because you both understand him, or you kind of like deal with the challenge together?
I do. My husband, I think, is a lot better at navigating stressful situations than I am. He's got a much better head on his shoulders because I panic a lot faster than he would. So he tends to become my support system when I'm going through like something I mean, he can really handle any kind of situation with a lot of calm and a lot of ease over me. So I think I've become like the person that he has to calm down in situations like that. And there are times when it's rough with our son, but somehow he's always been able to like manage that. There's been times when I've had to call in like reinforcements. Like his brother now for the past couple of years has been someone that's been able to help me. And I don't know, I don't know what it is with my special needs son, Brayon. Like he just knows who's stronger than him. So now if I call
Mhm.
his brother Suleiman, he'll immediately like drop what he's doing and be like, "Okay, I'm not gonna do it
Yeah,
anymore,"
they
because
can
he
sense
knows
it. Yes,
they
yes,
can.
for
He knows
sure.
that he can handle him. But alhamdulillah, my husband has not had to call in too many reinforcements, and he's gotten to a point where he knows how to navigate his tantrums or his breakdowns or, just when he's not feeling it. Like, he's really good about that. And I think that balance is what's been able to keep us strong is, like when I don't know how to handle things, he does.
Right, right. And yeah, and you need that because I have seen in several gatherings, and also my dad, who is very vigilant, as you know, and he also kind of observed that, and he said that, mentioning your husband's name, he's like, he was able, he, like Ryan listens to him so much. Like even when he holds his hand, he will be quiet and calm. And that's what my dad also said, I think in my son's graduation party. Like, he came and then he was like very quiet, sitting by your husband, not doing anything, listening to him. So, yeah, I mean, there are just people who are able to handle it better, and it makes your life so much better.
It does.
And him being your husband, and you have like this partnership that when you don't understand something, he's there for you.
Yeah,
And I have heard most of the time, I've heard from my friends who are dealing with special need children that it kind of like the same way as you were saying, but sometimes it's kind of like because of the situation being so rough, and sometimes things can get rougher, and so it kind of like also you
affects
know
marriages.
affects,
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
marriages a lot. But I was going to say that, but for you, it's like, it works in your favor in the sense that you guys are in a partnership and
Yeah.
you are like together in this
Well, and I think it
challenge.
also helped our marriage. Not just with, him being able to handle Rayan and that partnership, but I think he was always just support my husband was always just very supportive of me, like, working or doing whatever I needed to, and I know not everyone has that luxury, especially special needs parents, like, I am well aware that they don't have that luxury to work, but I think me being able to go out and work and to have an identity outside of being that special needs mom helped tremendously, and so you know, it's I can see where it could be hard on marriages when mom is the primary caretaker and she's at home all day and this is all she does, and it really does take a toll. I've been blessed that I have that community, like I had my in-laws, my parents, now my own kids who help out, and that helps tremendously because, like I said, we've been able to be social because we can leave
Right,
him. I've been able to work and create an identity outside of being not just mom, but special needs mom,
right.
and so that I think that's really kept me afloat.
Right. And I think that's so empowering. And as you know, the concept of my podcast, and the theme of my podcast is empowering, like interviewing empowered women. And I have said it before and I'm going to say it again, that empowerment feminism is not, in my definition, is not like what I'm saying, that you take off your clothes or be just run in the beach with bikini. That's not feminism for me.
Yeah,
It was not a feminism for my husband. Was a feminist, but when I say that, he was feminist, or he was on big on a woman empowerment in the true sense,
yeah,
like how our faith, our Islam supports women, gives them the right, and that they should have equal rights. They should not be judged just because they are women, and they should be able to get the same salary if a girl is a doctor, as the same salary if there is a man and a woman, if working in the same job grade, then why the woman would be getting less salary, right? That those are the questions that my husband always had, and they said that there should be people who would be breaking those ceilings. And that is true feminism to me. Feminism to me is like how people are going through those challenges, like life-changing events, facing these like hardships in their life, dealing with a special need child, everything, and then still coming out as a strong mother, a strong wife, a strong daughter, and also keeping their identity as an educator or any other professional. To me, that's why, I mean, to me, it's like a true empowerment, that you have managed your identity and also took care of your child. And balanced a social life and a family life. And when you have your spouse who is supporting and your in-laws who are supporting, it makes your job so much easier.
It does.
And also your community, your surrounding. Like for me, my parents being here when I lost my husband was like a support that I cannot even imagine what it would have been for me and my children if my parents were not there, because grandparents for them are like they're their rocks.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
kids were they could lean on them. And even when I was running, making those runs to the hospital, always with my husband when he was sick, as you saw, or like when I went back to work after a few months after his passing, and I'm going through those, transitions. My kids, I was not worried because my kids were well taken care of by
Yeah.
my parents.
Yeah.
So I think having an elderly at your home or around you is such a blessing. And and also the community, the friends that you're hanging out with, like, the immense love and respect that you get, that helps you get through those hard days,
Yeah.
having those people in your life. So Sabu, we're almost coming to the end of the podcast. We're having an amazing conversation. I know we can go on and on and on, but I want to ask you one thing, and I ask usually to most of my guests that what is that one thing that kept you going, like every morning when, like, in a hard morning that your child is throwing a fit, you don't know what to do, you still have to go to work. What is that one thing that kept you going for years that,
Wow, that's a really, really good question. Ooh, probably faith and hope, faith in not just like the religious sense, but also the sense that, everything will be okay. And hope along those same lines that, it'll calm down, like whatever it is, it'll subside, it'll be okay, and we can get through this. And I do think my support system was also a part of that. 'Cause at the end of the day, I was never at a point where it was like, "I don't know what to do because 'cause I'm all alone." There was always someone I could turn to and say, "This is what's happening," or, "I need help with this," and someone would come and say, "Okay, this is what you can do," whether it was, my husband or my mom or my mother-in-law or, my dad, whoever. Like, I could go to them and say, "This is what's happening. What should I do?"
exactly. And I think most of my guests or friends or who have been my guests in the podcast, they have kind of answered hope and faith. Like, these are the two things that keep you going. For
Yeah,
me, these were the only two things that, the hope that things will be fine,
yeah,
and inshallah Allah will take care of it.
yeah.
And also that, after I will reunite with my husband
Yes.
hereafter. And that faith that, Allah knows what is best for you. That I think those two things are so important. Otherwise, there is no way that we can wake up the next morning after battling through those challenges
Yeah,
and just show up at work or like do the things that we do. So that is amazing. And I would like to say that, those who are facing those challenges, which most of us do keep going, because there is that bright light at the end of the tunnel.
there is, there is. Hopefully there is. And, I just wanna end with I realize all of my privileges and all of my advantages because I do have a large community, and I know that everyone's not blessed, with as many people in their lives as I am, but hopefully they can find it doesn't have to be by blood, hopefully they can find, their village in some manner and, be able to keep that hope and faith.
I want to reinforce that it doesn't have to be by blood. And the most of my community, other than my parents, my children, and few of my extended family, I think most of the people that are in my life and who play an important role that, who help me going, including you, they are not
Not
my
the blood.
blood relatives, and but they are much more than that. They're much more than that. I can trust on them. I can rely, and if I know if I have a bad day, if I have like if I break down, they will be there to hold me back. So with that, we come to another end of another episode, and look forward to seeing you next time. Till then, take care.